question kind of goes on what was asked before, and he touched on the practicalities of changing mindset. My concern is mostly with what the government is doing in terms of changing our mentality. For example, you gave us the stock credit, and we realized all these problems, but how come for the masses, we're not exposed to such things, and therefore we get into mindset of complacency, and therefore we don't want to move away from the comfort zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is not an easy thing for the government to do, obviously. Trying to be, if I may use the word, trying to be harsh, at the same time trying to be gentle. But you will notice that the policies are changing. Even for housing, for instance, we have stopped building single houses. We're now building more semi-detached and terraces. And as land runs out, we probably will not be building terraces anymore, we will be building flats. So those are some of the things that we're preparing the public for. There are things, obviously, like we still have to start raising some of the tariffs that we're charging. But I think one of the issues which has always been talked about is there should still be welfare. There should still be a welfare scheme. But what kind of welfare scheme should it be? Should it be more targeted welfare scheme, or should it be like what it is now, a more general welfare scheme? Sorry, what to?
Can I just say, I'm not talking in terms of those practical things, like why is it not in the newspapers, or why is it not taught in schools, like the whole psychology of it, not building terraces, one-off terraces, or...
They actually are. You'll be surprised if you keep reading our speeches. The problem is we're boring in giving speeches. From this why people are not reading. But in the speeches it is mentioned. It is mentioned. I didn't mention it. You know, I remember in 2004, 2005, when I mentioned that more on public debt, there was. And it became headline. I mean, you know, I thought, wow, you know, I thought it was common knowledge, but I thought it wasn't. So I guess those are the things. You're right. I think policymakers have to be more open, and probably we should start mentioning more and more things. But then it does get the public, you know, the ones who are receiving welfare get a bit, you know, nervous if we start talking too many, you know, of all these things. But you're right. I think the policymakers have to talk more and more about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. We only have one more question.
Okay, same for us then.
Introduce yourself and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Lim Ren Chong. I'm from Imperial College London. My question is on a totally different note, which is, where is the room for scientific research and development in Brunei? I mean, just this is a really general question, but...
Thank you. That's a very good question. I think it is two rooms. Okay. The Ministry of Development actually is responsible for, the Ministry of Development is actually responsible for science and technology research. In fact, one of the problems we have is that we've got all these funds and nobody asks for them. This is one of the strange perks about technology. Maybe it's our fault for not, you know, advertising it more or publicizing it more. But there are funds available which are not being used. And unfortunately, there are a lot of areas which we probably can go into sense of technology, and so far we have not. And I guess that's something that we within the Ministry of Development has failed to address. We keep our science and technology unit as a very tiny unit with about 2 people in it. You know? And I think looking up to about $100 million or something like that. But it is something that I need to address. So it's something that I take responsibility for. But it is something that we are looking at. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
we have one last question.
Hello. Hi, good morning. I just have one very simple question, well, two actually. First of all, what would you advise to the Bruneians? Because if you have to offer one good advice, what would be advised to be for all Bruneians in terms of helping our economic and growth? Second thing is, what about the role of investors? Is there any possible way for us to invite investors from other countries to invest in Brunei? Why can't that be something that we can sustain in the near future? Because that is something I think that could bring up our economy. So thank you.
Thank you. What we have done, I to actually elaborate on what the Ministry of Development, the Ministry of Finance did in terms of its sustainability fund. What they actually have is a fund now where they actually invest in other countries and actually pull those countries to come to Brunei. So that's what I think we've got a few actually. We've got a company, the small island Mecca coming over to Brunei, and we've got the Viva Farm from Canada coming over to Brunei. And those were investments by Brunei. But at the same time, we're also working on the. What happened is that the problem with FDIs is that the government sometimes, we discussed this during the Permanent Secretary's meeting, we were too fractured. So what we're doing now, we're putting up a united front where everybody is working together so that if a company wants to come to Brunei, we'll do any sorts of thing just to make sure it comes over to Brunei. So we're doing that. So that will hopefully we will see the results in the next 1 or 2 years. So it's going to be in terms of advice, I don't really have that much advice, seriously. I think the most important thing is to understand the need. I think every one of you, no matter in whatever sector you work in, whatever sector, whatever niche your expertise is on, if only you can think in terms of how it helps the economy. And that's the most important thing. If you can do that, then and don't think in terms of how it's going to help you probably. So how it's going to help the economy, how it's going to help the country. Because honestly speaking, like I said, everybody has to work together. We just can't work alone. And that basically is my message. So I can't do this. There are simple things I can do, but I can't do this, not by myself. I don't think the government can do it without the support of everyone here and the support of everyone back home.